Hey everyone, as promised, I'm doing a Rook Endgame video. Um, the you might be asking why I'm starting with Rook Endgames. By Rook Endgames, I mean when both sides have a Rook, because we'll also be going over when one side has a Rook and the other side has advanced pawns. But the reason is because Rook Endgames are the most common in practical play. I think 50% of all endgames are Rook Endgames. So uh, before we get to any more complicated positions, we have to learn. There's kind of five basic positions, and then there's one or two a little bit less basic but also quite important basic positions. My videos already talk about three of the five, which are the Philidor defense, the back rank defense, and the Klingon-Horwitz defense, which my videos call the KH defense, and I'll link them in the description below. So what we're left with is we still haven't talked about the Lucena position or the long side defense, which are the two remaining basic positions. So unlike the other four, the Lucena position, which is what we're going over today, which is the subject of a lot of videos, is a winning method instead of a drawing method. And one of the key differences between this and some other defenses is that, or some other of the positions, is that White's king, the strong side king, is in front of his own pawn, as opposed to the defending king being in front of the pawn. And that allows White to organize a promotion. Um, so this is the position that's famous, and there's three different methods of winning this, but I'm just going to only go over the classic method because it works in every situation. It works with every pawn. I mean, what I mean is the pawn doesn't matter if the pawn is a queen's pawn or a knight's pawn or a rook's pawn or a bishop's pawn. It doesn't matter. The method works for all pawns if you get to this position. And here's the method. All right, so first of all, black's pieces are optimally placed. They're keeping white hemmed in front of his own pawn. So obviously, to promote, white's going to first have to be able to leave, and he can't exit right now because all these squares are covered. So the first stage, once you get to the pawn to the seventh, is to check the black king off of f7, which is the key defensive square. So black has a few choices here. Obviously, king e6 is not good because now what black has done is he has blocked his own rook from the e file, and white could just simply play king e8 and promote next move. So black will play king g7 here. But white's problems aren't over because white still has to promote, and the logical way of doing that would be to move his king out of the way and prepare to push the pawn. But mm, the problem is black can start delivering checks on these squares, and white will have to eventually hide behind his own pawn again or give up the pawn. So, for example, let's see what this could look like. Let's say the problem is white is stuck on the sixth. He can't get any further than the fifth rank. This is as far as he can come because now he'll have to go back to defend the pawn, and he won't make any progress. So king e7 isn't working. So this is where we get to the the idea. And remember that the white's king can get all the way to the fifth rank um, by doing this kind of zigzag maneuver. But then that's when it gets hairy for him because he has to go after rook checks. He has to come back to defend the white pawn. So what white's going to do is he's going to play king rook here first, so that after the zigzag maneuver he can interpolate the rook and do what's called building a bridge. Which mean I don't know why it's called building a bridge, but that's what it's called, and it's a way to prevent the checks and promote. So now black is really left with no good moves here, and he can just wait. And now we can just start this maneuver that we just talked about. And here we see the how it works. And now the pawn is going to promote, and it's an easy win. Now, this is a pretty simple endgame, and you might be, you know, it doesn't look. You might be saying this is in practical play. How often will this position come up? And the point is, it doesn't come up magically. You have to you have to know about it, right? You have to. It's the target position. That's why it's important to know it. So let's just change the position slightly, and let's say it's white's turn here. White a few moves ago, in this position has aimed at the position we just talked about, the Lucena position. He has put his king in front of his own pawn, and it's his turn now. What he'll do is he'll play king e6, and he will assure that he controls the promotion square of his own pawn and prevent black from somehow getting in. And from here, the Lucena position is absolutely forced. There's no way for black to avoid, um, you know, any sort of avoid white from or not avoid prevent white from getting to that position. So let's play a few moves and white. Let's say black waits here just to provide some sort of problems for white, but white will just sidestep and do this maneuver. And now when if black were to attack this pawn again, he could just push it forward. And if he comes back here, we're back at the Lucena position. So white can force his way into the Lucena position in a lot of different positions just by pushing the pawn up the board. There are some exceptions if the pawn is on the fourth rank, and which we'll talk about in future videos. But I just wanted to get this basic thing down so that we could move on, because if you don't know this maneuver, there's no way you can do more advanced stuff. The next video we'll talk about or the next video will be the subject of the next video will be the long side defense, which is the last of the 5 basic positions. And then we'll probably do after that one more position that's quite basic, but it's unique to only the rook's pawn. I don't want to get too far. I don't want to confuse everybody. But then the point is that once you start building the base, then we can start doing more advanced stuff that relies on previous knowledge, and we'll get into some more interesting endgames. So, see you next time.